Spaghetti and meatballs. Today we are making meatballs, of course. Just a disclaimer, this is a re-recording of this part of the episode because for whatever reason we lost our footage. So I'm going to redo the introduction to meatballs, and we're going to discuss some of our ingredients and methodologies. So without further ado, when it comes to meatballs, me personally, I do enjoy using ground chuck, but I've got two different kinds of meat here. I've got ground sirloin and ground chuck. Ground chuck, I think, holds up better to stewing or long cooking times. Also, it has more fat, so it's generally tastes better because fat tastes good. What can I say? And then ground sirloin, because I think it has a better beefy flavor. If I was going to be stewing these meatballs in like a crock pot or some kind of sauce for a long time, I would just do all ground chuck. But we're not today. We're just going to throw them in with some sauce and some pasta. So I want a little bit of both for that perspective. So we've got half a pound each, so it's 1 pound. I'm going to use some breadcrumbs. A lot of recipes for meatballs will call for breadcrumbs. It helps keep the part of the meat together, part of the emulsion that we're going to make. I like to use panko breadcrumbs. A lot of recipes will call for panko breadcrumbs. Excuse me. The nature of the breadcrumbs, I think, just they make for a better texture, and they hold on to the liquid a little bit better, I think. When you're making meatballs, you want them to hold on to the juice. That way they're nice and juicy and flavorful. If not, then the juice runs out, and then you're just stuck with a dry meatball, and it's just no bueno. So we're going to use breadcrumbs. I generally find the ratio half a cup of breadcrumbs to 1 pound of meat works for me, along with 1 egg. So that's sort of or mine rather, I should say, but if you want to adopt it, feel free. Your good ratio: 1 pound of meat, half a cup of breadcrumbs, 1 egg. Obviously, you double those as you go. All these other things are somewhat optional. Obviously, you would want to have some salt, so we're going to do probably for this much, probably a tablespoon of salt, several grinds of black pepper. I do have some parsley here that was once fresh, but I have let it go, and since this is a re-recording, this is simply just a visual aid to demonstrate that you should use fresh parsley and not this, because this is gross and a lot of this is just unedible. But I usually will this is how I keep parsley on the windowsill with some water in it just to keep it fresh. I just, I had some left over and I wasn't doing anything with it, and it did this, and now I have this gross old parsley for visual aid. So that is what it is. Some optional ingredients over here. I love to use Worcestershire. It just gives a certain special flavor. If you know Worcestershire, you know what that flavor is, and it's just hard to replace. So I like to do probably about a teaspoon or so of this in the mixture. Also about a teaspoon of thyme, and about a teaspoon of each of these as well. I'm also going to add an onion. I don't have that with me because, again, this is a re-recording and I already made the onion, but I'm going to saute a whole small onion with some balsamic vinegar as well. Lots of recipes will call for some chopped up onion in there, and you can certainly chop it up and mince it as fine as you can. I just find that generally when you add raw onion to a meatball and then cook it, it can be okay, but lots of times there's just these chunks of raw onion in there, and then I don't mind it, but most people just don't like biting into a raw onion. So I'm going to saute them with some butter and some balsamic vinegar. It may actually be olive oil, but you'll have to double check me when we get to the next segment. Not just because of raw versus cooked, but also when you cook onions, it enhances the flavor. We're going to reduce a little balsamic vinegar in there. That'll further reduce the flavor. And sort of my motto when we when I'm going through a lot of these recipes. It's just any opportunity we have to heighten the flavor, heighten the recipe, I take it. So adding in little layers of flavor layers here and there, I think is sort of, it's fun, and it makes the food taste better, gives a little bit of flair, and you can say, oh yeah, and people will eat your meatballs and go, oh my goodness, these are delicious. What did you do? And you can tell them, or you can say, it's my secret. So whatever you want to do. So a little bit of thyme, a little bit of smoked paprika, and even though we're putting onion here, I'm still going to add a little bit of granulated onion and some granulated garlic. So those are my flavors for the meatballs. In the next segment, we'll start mixing them up and forming them and cooking them, and we'll show you how to do that. So thanks for watching, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We are going to start sauteing the onions. And how do we know when we've got about a tablespoon of oil in here? How do we know when the oil is ready, Aiden?
So if you look at it, you can see like reflections and stuff, and then if the reflections are like a little like wavy and wiggly and stuff, it's shimmering, and then when it moves like everywhere, you like tilt the pan and stuff, it's shimmering.
Yeah, so it gives a nice shimmer, and when you move it, if it all moves nice and easily, and it's still kind of thickly coating it, not quite hot enough, but it's about ready here. We're gonna go ahead and add, I actually diced half that onion, so this is half a small yellow onion. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it in here. And we are just gonna give it a nice little toss in the olive oil. If you can't do this, it's fine. If you would like to practice, if you'd like to learn how, practice. It's actually not as hard as it looks, but it does take some practice. And it's a nice way to get everything nice and coated. I'm going to turn this back down a little bit, and I'm going to add a pinch of kosher salt. Too much. A little bit more. Wasn't quite a pinch. A few grinds of black pepper. And another couple tosses. Make sure we turn the heat down a little bit more. Don't want to burn your onions, you want to saute them.
Don't burn the onions.
Don't burn the onions.
They won't taste good.
Now, what else are we going to do here, Aiden?
We're going to make meatballs.
We're going to make meatballs. So what do we got here?
We have our meat, we have our beet egg, we have our breadcrumbs, and we have the thyme, the garlic, and the paprika.
That's right. And
The Worcestershire
it's a special ingredient right there. So what you want to go ahead and do is you could just go ahead and add it all in there. In fact, I'm gonna. This is for the onions.
Right now, I'm adding everything into the meat bowl thing.
I'm giving the.
How much Worcestershire should I put in?
About a tablespoon. There's a lot of salt in Worcestershire, so you don't want to overdo it. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Give it a little more shake, shake, shake it. Shake it. Shake it. All right. Maybe a little bit more.
This is a special ingredient.
Special ingredient. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna give the parsley an extra little chop here. You don't want to have a bunch of big chunks of parsley in there. Okay. Moment of truth, Aiden. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Now you don't want to like squeeze it. You just kind of want to mix it together loosely. So just get your hands. Don't be afraid. Get your hand. That's right. Manhandle this meat.
Yeah, manhandle all of the.
Get it all in there. You want to make sure it's nice and coated. You don't want to squeeze it too much. You just want to mix it. Use your fingertips, not your hands. You don't want to overwork the meat. You just want to make sure that you get all of the ingredients in there. Get that started. And then when the onions are done, we're going to add the onions in there as well. You can put raw onions in there, but sometimes they don't cook all the way through, and then people don't like to have a chunk of onion in their meatball. So I usually saute the onions first for that reason, but also, y'all know what happens when you saute onions, you get a lot more flavor, and then the introduction of the balsamic gives a little heightening. I just like to try and elevate flavor wherever I can. So I think
Lots
that's good.
of flavor in my dad's dishes.
Thank you, sir. I think that's good for now. You can go you can go ahead and wash your hands, and when the onions are done, we'll mix those in as well. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back. We are continuing with our part 2, which is meatballs. We integrated the sauteed onions, and we're already started to make some meatballs. This one's a little bit too big. We started to make some meatballs here. We're going to preheat the oven a little bit. The trick to these meatballs here is it's actually not that difficult. You just want to take a little bit of meat. You don't want to squish it. Kind of just want to roll it around nice and evenly, nice and softly.
It's like Play-Doh.
With a little ball, just like Play-Doh. It does not have to be perfect. They will be a little oblong here and there. Place them in a pan. Ordinarily, you do want them to be evenly spaced. When you're dealing with ground beef, if they're too close, they don't have a good chance to brown on all sides, and we do want to get some good browning action. If they're too close, they won't brown, and then they'll stew, and then they just become gray instead of brown, and that's not what we want. That's not good stuff. Also, you try and want to make them all the same shape more or less. Now you can, or the size rather. You can make them big if you like. Whatever size you make, they will get smaller. So just keep that in mind. If you want them bite size, you might want to make them a little bit on the smaller side. If you like to have them big and then maybe cut them up later, you can make them bigger. Just make sure that you try and keep them the same size. That way they cook. They will cook at the same time. That way you won't have some that are underdone, some that are overdone. So we're gonna get these started, and then we're gonna preheat the oven while we continue on our episode 3 a little bit.
Do we preheat the oven too?
That's a good question. What do you think?
Like 425.
Well, that's a little high. We do want to bake them. We don't want to burn them. So we're probably going to do around 350 for about 25 minutes or so. We want to cook them till they're just about medium, which is I'll have to look at my scale, but I believe that's somewhere around 140 degrees. But don't quote me on that until later. What we'll probably end up doing is using an Insta-read thermometer. When we think they're just about done, we'll poke one, see what we got. I do like them just medium, and when we take them out, they'll continue to cook a little bit, so they'll probably give it a little bit over that. So you might even want to just cook them to just before medium. And again, preference. Do you like your meat rare? Do you like them medium? My brother likes his burnt to death, which I do not enjoy. But when I'm eating ground beef or like a hamburger, I do like them medium. I don't like them too bloody. Not like a steak per se. So we're getting these together, and we'll probably be back in a few minutes once we're ready to get these in the oven, and we'll see you in a few. So
bye.
Welcome back, and we are ready to put meatballs in the oven. We've got a preheated oven at 350 degrees. And so we're gonna go ahead and stick them in the middle rack. We're gonna do this. We're gonna cook them for about 25 minutes. And while we do that, we're going to roll out the pasta. So Aiden, you wanna go ahead and grab those things?
Yeah.
Make sure when you are putting stuff in or taking them out of the oven that you use gloves. And sometimes, depending on your oven, you first open the door, a lot of hot air can come out. So back away for a second before you stick your face down there. Alright. We've got meatballs in the oven. Go ahead and set a timer, 25 minutes. Kitchen timer.
Kitchen timer for
25. And then we'll take them out and we'll poke them with the thermometer, make sure they're right around medium. And see you in a few. Okay, we are back with episode
2.
We're getting our episodes mixed up today.
Yeah, I don't know anymore.
The meatballs the timer's done for the meatballs. So we're gonna go ahead and take those out. In fact, you know what? We don't even need to take them out just yet. We just need to test the timer. So go ahead and pull one of those out. We're just gonna poke it We're looking for right around medium, which is for beef, it's 145 degrees. This happens to be over. So these are done. We're gonna go ahead and pull these out. We've got these handy things made out of cork, which work well.
Mine's broken.
It's fine, I just need one. I'm gonna go put these over here, Aiden. One at a time. Very hot. Just be careful, move slowly. Don't hurt yourself.
They're sizzly.
They are sizzly.
Good.
They look good. They're all nice and brown.
Onions are good.
Alright. And that does it for the meatballs thus far. So thanks for watching episode 2. We are going to move on, finish our episode number 3, which is
Pasta.
pasta, specifically
Spaghetti.
spaghetti. So
Spaghetti.
thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the end of episode 3.
Video editing.